There are 9 important terms to understand, and the first one that we're going to focus on is going to be the subject. And what is a subject? A subject is a person, place, thing, or idea. A couple examples that we can go over would be Fran ran home. In this instance, Fran is the person that we're discussing, so Fran is the subject. Next we have the hospital is large. In this instance, we're talking about a place, which is the hospital, so the hospital is the subject. Next, let's talk about a direct object. And a direct object is what or whom is directly affected by the action verb. A couple examples would be, our cat caught a mouse. What did our cat catch? It caught a mouse. So the mouse is the direct object. Next we could say, the student will write the paper tomorrow. In this instance, what will the student write? The student will write the paper. So the paper is the direct object. Next we'll discuss the indirect object. And an indirect object is someone or something that is indirectly affected by the action of the verb. And what does an indirect object need? It needs a direct object. Next, we'll discuss what an indirect object will answer. And there's 4 items that an indirect object can answer. And the 4 are to whom, for whom, to what, or for what. An example of this would be, Jack gave me his chemistry notes. In this instance, me is your indirect object because to whom did Jack give his chemistry notes to? He gave them to me. So that is your indirect object. Next we have the predicate. And the predicate is what the subject does or is. There are 2 things that the predicate includes. And that is the verb and the words that modify the verb. So these are the 2 things that a predicate includes. There are 2 things that the predicate tells us. First of all, it tells us what the subject does. And secondly, the predicate is everything that is not the subject. So it's everything that is not the subject. So let's go over some examples. So the first example that we can go over is, he won the contest. So the subject in this instance would be he, and the predicate would be won the contest. So remember, everything that is not the subject is the predicate. So won the contest is your predicate. So there's example 1. So let's go over a second example. And the second example that we could discuss is the student passed the test. In this instance, the subject is the student and the predicate is passed the test. Remember, the predicate is everything that is not the subject, and it is what the subject does. So what did the student do? The student passed the test. So pass the test is your predicate. Next, we'll discuss the predicate adjective. And the predicate adjective follows a linking verb. So that's one key factor. It follows a linking verb, and it helps to explain the subject. The first example that we can discuss is, the clothes look expensive. In this instance, expensive is your predicate adjective. It follows a linking verb, which is look, and it helps to explain the subject. And what are we explaining? We're explaining that the clothes are expensive. That is the first example. The second example that we can discuss would be, Jack is alive. In this instance, what is Jack? He is alive. So alive is your predicate adjective. Next, let's discuss the predicate nominative. There are 3 parts to a predicate nominative that we'll want to go over. First of all, it is a noun or pronoun. Next, it follows a linking verb. And the third thing that we want to know is that it tells us what the subject is. An example would be, Jack is my brother. In this instance, we're describing what Jack is. Jack is my brother, so my brother is the predicate nominative in this example. Let's go over another example. So for example 2, we could state that a tomato is a fruit. In this instance, the fruit is the predicate nominative because it's explaining what the tomato is. A phrase is 2 or more words that act as a unit. There are 3 different types of phrases. There's a noun phrase, an adjective, and an adverb. Now that we know the 3 different types, let's do an example. I will be going on vacation. Will be going is your phrase. It stands together, it's more than 2 words, and it acts as a unit. So will be going is your phrase. Next, we'll discuss the clause, which is a subject and a predicate. And there are 2 types of clauses. The first one is the independent clause. And there's 2 things that you'll want to know about the independent clause. First of all, it is a complete thought, and it can stand alone. An example would be, the student took the test. In this instance, the student took the test can stand by itself and it completes a thought. So this is the first type of clause, which is the independent clause. The second type of clause is the dependent clause. And there's 2 things that you want to know about the dependent clause. First of all, you need a subordinating conjunction. An example of a subordinating conjunction would be although. Next, it does not stand alone. An example would be because the stars were bright. In this instance, the sentence can't stand by itself, and it has a subordinating conjunction, which is because. So this is a dependent clause. Lastly, let's discuss the sentence. There are 2 parts to a sentence that you'll want to know about. First of all, it is a group of words that expresses a complete thought, and it contains a subject and a predicate. Now, there are 4 types of sentences. The first type that we're going to focus on is the declarative sentence. And a declarative sentence makes a statement. An example of this would be, she went to the hospital. It's declaring what she is doing. So it is a declarative sentence. The second type of sentence is an interrogative sentence. And an interrogative sentence asks a question. So an example of this would be, did you go to the hospital? It is asking a question. The question is, did you go to the hospital? The third type of sentence is an imperative sentence. And an imperative sentence makes a command or a request. An example of this would be, go to the hospital. It's a command saying, go to the hospital. The fourth type of sentence is an exclamatory sentence, meaning it makes an exclamation. An example of this would be, you went to the hospital. It is exclaiming what they did. What did they do? They went to the hospital. These are your 4 types of sentences.